It's weird, but my camera is not on now. Do you know why, Gustavo? And we are on, we are live. But those are the beautiful things that happen when you go live. I have absolutely no idea. We'll get started and we'll find out as we go. No problem. So, welcome everyone. Today we're joined by Rafael Barini, a true expert in e-commerce, digital transformation with over 20 years of experience. He's the visionary behind Brazil's first 3P marketplace and led major initiatives like the Carrefour relaunch in 2016. Recently, he was also leading the digital transformation of RBI in over 130 countries. So we're very excited to hear his insights on marketplace creation, digital transformation, and scaling across global markets. Also, a big thank you to our sponsor, AirMeet, for supporting this session. Rafa, I always start with the big picture, with the same question, which is the big picture. So, how did we get here? What's the story? How did you end up working with marketplaces? And yeah, ended up in Switzerland.
Cool. Thanks for inviting me, Carlos, and really a pleasure to be here and talking to you today. So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever is the place that you are right now. But yeah, starting with this reflection, I have three kids. I was talking to my daughter earlier this week about career. She has 15, so this moment is very important. And then I started to remember about myself, and for me, I think things were a bit more clear. At 8 something, was clear for me that I wanted to be an astronaut. So didn't work well, but right after this astronaut moment, I started to see a lot coming about internet. And internet was really starting at that time. But internet was like Gopher, FTP, Waze, web was something really new. And it became very clear for me that I wanted to do something connected to internet. This power of connection was really appealing to me, and I started to invest time to learn more and to create stuff. So a future with computers and internet was very clear since the beginning for me. I think I was very lucky to join this start of the wave, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
But now moving to the professional side of things, my first corporate experience was in Magazine Luiza. Magazine Luiza is still one of the biggest retailers in Brazil. And at that time, it was not that big. We were super early stage with internet in Brazil at that time. This was like 2000. And at that time, when we used it to print orders in paper, was the server that was running the service was beside my desk. So I moved from this moment very, very early stage to a moment that we had a lot of automation, 2 or 3 data center migrations. So I was lucky to get this initial steps of e-commerce in Magalu. So this took like 5 years. Then I moved to São Paulo to join Grupo Pão de Açúcar. Pão de Açúcar was one of the pioneers to invest in internet in Brazil. This was like 1997 with an initiative called Amelia. But this didn't work super well. I think it was the right vision, but probably in the wrong time. So they cut all the investment from this period until 2005, more or less. And then that was the moment to focus on non-food retail and e-commerce again. So I joined GPA to lead this start of the e-commerce operation, focusing on one of the brands that was Extra.com.br. This was a brand, and we brought like a plan to grow very fast. It was like from 50 some million reais of revenue to 1 billion in few years. So that was a very bold, a very aggressive plan, and things were working the right direction. But then GPA acquired one of the competitors, that was Ponto Frio, and this became Nova.com. Nova.com after it became Sinova, with the acquisition also of a third brand, Casas Bahia. So Sinova was a group that was managing 3 big brands in Brazil. Uh, we were like the second biggest e-commerce retail in Brazil during quite some time. And there I played different roles, from leading front-end interfaces, from being a PMO of very random projects like opening warehouses and this kind of stuff. But my last mission there was really to lead the marketplace operation. At that moment, Amazon was going to Brazil to start the operation in Brazil, and of course, everyone was analyzing Amazon as a big player globally, but we didn't have any retail playing in this field at that moment. So we started to build the structure to create this marketplace operation in Sinova with the 3 brands. We started with temporary brands. We tested the market, and then we moved to Extra, then Ponto Frio, then Casas Bahia, and other brands. Of course, as you can imagine, as a retail company, we were used to buy and sell stuff. And this was a very big transformation to the business, because we started to have new types of customers in this operation. So we had like 30-party sellers for the first time in the environment. We have like the commercial team buying stuff and also having to deal with products that were coming from 30-party sellers for the first time. And of course, this grew very fast and happily became a very representative part of the business. And a few years later, was representing the majority of the business for most of the retail operations in Brazil. So then, in total, I think I was lucky to be at the beginning of this operation, also in Nova.com and Sinova. With some structural change there, I decided to move to Carrefour. And Carrefour was also an operation that was in that moment to restart the e-commerce operation. Carrefour had an e-commerce in the past. They had to close for a couple of years, and then they were restarting the e-commerce again. And I joined the group like to help with the technology implementation. So we structured the teams and focus a lot on this new implementation of the e-commerce. And together came the food operation, non-food, and marketplace. So marketplace was also a project there, but there we used a solution from a partner. Then after 2 or 3 years with this running operation, I decided that was the moment like to focus on these new marketplace businesses that was starting to grow a lot in Brazil. And with the experience that I had in Sinova, building teams and platforms from scratch, investing a lot of money to make this happen, and then implementing a third-party solution in Carrefour, having to deal with a lot of localization and custom development work, I thought that was going to be a good moment to start my own business. So I invested some time and money to fund and to start operation for OmniKey. OmniKey is a marketplace SaaS platform, basically to help e-commerce operations to become marketplace and manage the third-party sellers, the seller portal, APIs, and everything that's connected to this partner management, let's say. Yeah, and then I received an invite to come to RBI to lead the digitalization process of international markets. RBI is the franchisor who manages the basically 4 big brands of restaurant today. So Burger King, Popeyes, Tim Hortons, and Firehouse Subs. My mission here was basically to create a technology foundation to help the markets on this process of digitalization. So every single business in the world is investing to digitalize, and restaurants are also a type of business that have a lot of benefits on doing that. So I came here in 2020 basically to start this operation internationally. we created a global platform that we can share with the franchisees and have then being able to leverage a bit of these gains of efficiency that you can have building something that you can replicate. Because many of operations around the globe were trying to do different stuff. And this is one of the roles of the franchisors that we have in the system. So we need to help and make operation viable financially and sustainable from a long-term perspective. So yeah, basically we implemented this global platform. I was in the company until July and I left recently. In a nutshell, that's pretty much it about my
Yeah,
career.
that's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Rafa, the first question I have is I'm looking at your LinkedIn right now. So you start in Franca, a city in Brazil, as a maintenance and IT guy. And over the years, and then you went to Magazine Luiza, also as an IT professional. You say it, e-business. Over the years, your role has very much evolved into a digital transformation person. So what I like to ask is more like, if you, when you're comparing, when we're looking at the evolution of your career and technology as well, today you were leading the digital transformation of a major franchise group. Yeah, I'm curious, like, what changed from the years when you started as an IT professional to becoming a CDO, right? What changed both in your career, let's say your career evolution, but also in terms of technology or how people adopt, how companies are looking at technology, the adoption and things like that, the understanding of technology in general.
Yeah. Well, one really interesting thing about technology that is that you need always to keep like trying to learn new stuff, and this is one thing that didn't change. So over time, I think what becomes more and more clear is that you need to be always trying to learn new stuff and trying to catch up because things change so fast. So to your question, I think this is the piece that doesn't change. All the rest really changed. So how we used it to build technology in the past was a lot more complex. We had like to deal with more low-level coding, or if you just taking the example that I mentioned at the beginning, for instance, for Magalu. Today we have a lot of cloud environments that you can do a lot. We can have a lot of automation processes that are more simple to scale. At the beginning was, okay, I need to buy a server, I need to buy CPU, I need to buy memory, I need to change the data center because don't have space to do this. So all this, I would say, boring stuff is in the past, and with technology now, it's a lot more simple to do a bunch of stuff because things are evolving. So we are creating layers of evolution, and we can build stuff on the top layers, and this will be a lot easier. This is from a technological perspective, but also from organizational perspective. The companies are, of course, also evolving very fast. In the past, all the conversation was about having online presence. How can we have a website? How can we be present online? And every single business in the world have a lot more complexity today because technology started to bring new possibilities of doing business that didn't exist before. So these new businesses are in the foundation of every single executive discussion. So we need to be able to understand technology, to connect the dots, and to help finding the new opportunities that we need to explore as a business. And yeah, so I would say that every single business need to be digital. So this kind of digital transformation role, I would say that's probably something temporary, because this needs to be in the top agenda of every single executive that's playing an important mission in every company in the world. So digital is part of the role of everyone. That's being logistics, being the CEO of an organization. So it's really important to analyze digital from a wider perspective in every single organization.
Mm-hmm. And do you think it's in the agenda, or is this something you still have to explain?
In many cases, I would say yes. But sometimes bringing this perspective or trying to challenge from a technology perspective helps a lot, and open new types of engagement and also new lines of business. If you see retail, of course, we have more the basic stuff about connected to optimization. How can you buy with more efficiency? How can you run a warehouse with more efficiency? How can you optimize logistics and all the delivery operation? But I think every single retail in the world is trying to diversify and create like more focus on service, more focus on personalization, creating this ecosystem effect, really, or bringing third-party sellers to sell in their platforms, or really providing the products or the services to new channels. So it's more and more part of everyone's agenda, and it's essential to every single business, I would say.
And when you if we are to talk about your let's say last experience in, of course, whatever you can share with us, what were some of the challenges of deploying and launching? I think because one thing is like if I'm the owner of a brand, I think it's much easier than when I'm looking at franchisees. They buy a franchise, and then you probably need to set expectations there, right? When you're dealing with franchisees, and how do you make technology work for franchisees, and also the company, because in some cases, let's say a company owns some stores, and then they have franchises as well. So how do you ensure that there are no conflicts and across channels? I find that a very interesting conversation when you're using digital.
Yeah. Look, if you see the model that this franchise operations work, you have very big companies in most of the case, not all the case, that are running the operation. So we have many countries that have companies behind that are listed in exchange with thousands of restaurants in their operation, with good funding structure behind. So it's not like small companies that are trying to do business. So they have some level of independency from the franchise brand owner, let's say. But this possibility of generating gains of efficiency is there, and this is very clear. And also about sharing learnings and things that work well. And this is also a responsibility of the franchisor behind the scenes, because everyone is learning this word, right? So if you see an operation that is doing well in a country like Switzerland, you need to be able to replicate this worldwide. And this is one of the benefits of a franchise-based system. So when the interests are aligned, things move in the right direction. And I think that's what happens with this kind of business model, because everyone wants to sell more. Everyone wants to digitalize the business, because all the benefits of the digitalization are related or to save costs, or to improve the guest experience in the end, or to know more about the guest to be able to drive personalization. And this is connected also to the service and how the brand connects with the guest. So I think the key thing is having aligned interests. If you have aligned interests between the brand owner, let's say, and who is running the business, things get to work well.
Super. Still, like talking about your last experience with managing digital platforms across 100 international markets. What were the, let's say, critical factors to consider when scaling a marketplace and franchise globally? Because you
Yeah,
mentioned replicating one experience that was working into other markets, but we have cultural factors, digital maturity, right?
yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, the localization is not trivial because localization is not only technology platform, is also about culture, is about how, for instance, if you have something that's working super well in a country like Switzerland or like France, doesn't mean that we work in Brazil or in South Korea.
Mhm.
So it's all about getting the main concepts, the main ideas really, and trying to apply, considering localization. So localization of platform is language, payment methods that you need to be ready to support. But then in terms of how to implement and how to deliver the service and the interaction to the guest is also plays a big role, because just to give a material example, if you get something related to table service in a country, let's say, if you don't communicate well how the customers will use the table service, doesn't will not work. So how to communicate to the guests, this is a work that needs to be really 360 and involve like marketing departments and every and operations, for instance, because things will only work if you have like a full vision about how to deploy the technology itself. Does it? If you have the perfect platform, maybe it will not work if you don't spend enough time like building the plan to launch in the proper way, to communicate in the proper way, and this is essential for this global projects. So localization and change management, I would say that
Mhm.
are key in this case.
How many were you, Rafa, running this project to make sure the communication was uh,
Yeah,
was on point?
yeah. This team was near to 100 people working
Wow.
on this global platform. Yeah.
Right. And as yesterday we had a call with a new member. His name is Hadi, and he's based in out of Lebanon. And I mean, when I went to Romania, I was aware that cash on delivery is massive in Romania, but I didn't know that cash on delivery was quite big in Lebanon for different reasons. And the reason in Lebanon is that they had a financial crisis, according to what he was explaining. And because of the financial crisis, well, then nobody trusts banks or the financial institutions. So everything happens in, well, people they get some sort of kind of like paper or whatever, and
Mhm.
they need to go to small kiosks to get their payments and what were, like when you were dealing in countries that were not so digitized or that would have this sort of challenges, could you perhaps shed light on some of the countries and challenges you came across and how you guys solved that?
Yeah, this payment vision is for sure something that's very different per country. So if you go to Brazil, as we have many people from Brazil here, you know that in the last like 3 or 4 years, uh, you cannot have an operation without supporting Pix anymore, because everyone in Brazil is using Pix, and this is super recent. We didn't have this like 10 years ago, or even 6 years ago when I came to Europe. So this changed very fast, and it's a clear example that you cannot implement something in a country like Brazil without thinking about Pix. The same applies to many examples in Europe or in South Korea. So in Europe, for instance, if you go to Netherlands, you need to apply to Ideal, that is very similar to what we have in Brazil, or here in Switzerland, we have Twint, that is a payment method that is super important here for peer-to-peer transactions. So I think every country can have some specific attributes. This point that you mentioned about accepting money was also accepting cash was also the reality that we had to implement. For instance, at the beginning, we implemented this in Germany because it was important
Yeah, so
in the
interesting.
start of the operation. Yeah. So you need to take these local considerations to be able to implement something that works well. And in Asia, I think we have some even more specific stuff. So if you go to South Korea, for instance, how to locate stuff, you really don't use a lot of Google Maps, so use a lot of local solutions that do the work similar to what we have with Google Maps. The same to payment method. So if you need to understand the ecosystem that runs in each country, and then spend time really to integrate with them.
Right, and still on that note, because taking back my experience from, like, for example, when we were doing the international expansion of VTEX in Romania, we would then have Romanians supporting. I mean, I figured that in some ways. So if I was going to Romania to negotiate pricing for an event, I would always pay more. Whereas if I had a Romanian just mirroring me and representing me, I didn't necessarily have to appear. Like they understood the culture, the best places where we could host events, also, you know, nuances that you learn when you're entering a new market. And in your case, was that the same? Like, you had a person from each region, kind of roughly. You know, if it's Middle East, someone who understand Lebanon, UAE, and how you guys go went about that?
Yeah. Well, when you look to this global landscape, I think, of course, having local people is always a good way to deal with localization, but sometimes it's not possible from a financial perspective, right? Because if you want to get all the benefits of scale of having a global platform, then you need to keep like a foundation that is not very spread in every single country that you work with. But you can create pools. For instance, in Middle East, I think we have a set of capabilities that are more or less similar. If you go to see, for instance, delivery aggregators, we have maybe 7 or 8 different delivery aggregators that play a big role in the Middle East region. So what's the best platform to consolidate all these 6 or 7 different aggregators? So then we can play locally, but using a region as a hub, or partners as hubs to help with this. The same to payments. We have some payment providers that can consolidate the payment needs for some of the regions. In Asia, the same. So, for instance, in South Korea, it's not everyone that can speak English very fluently on the day-to-day of the operation. So sometimes you need to have someone on ground that will help to implement or to execute. This can be done via partners. So part of the path of having a global platform can also be dependent on partners that can help to extend your capabilities, especially when it relates to integrations. So the integration landscape is very complex. I mentioned some, but delivery aggregators or payment methods or POS, the system that really processes the transaction inside the restaurant. So we have a lot of different solutions, and it's very difficult to handle 100% internally. So we need to deal with local partners that can help to support the mission and focus on your core product, let's say. So that's what I believe also some global e-commerce platform does today. I think we have some members in the group here that can confirm. But in general, this global e-commerce platforms try to create a focus on their core business, and then you can have add-ons, extensions, or modules that you can buy from partners to extend the products, or you can build yourself, and they can still focus on generating the foundation that we work across the board. Uh, so this modularization of the platform, or how you build the components, is super important when you are trying to deal with a global landscape. You cannot like try to centralize everything or try to build everything in a way that cannot split different components of the
Hmm.
puzzle, because otherwise will become very complex to manage.
Very interesting. I will open up to questions real soon. Actually, Adam and Thomas they send their questions, which I'll share in a bit here on stage. I'll also invite whoever is in. I'll ask them if they want to join and jump in. But I just have, I think, two final questions. And the first one is like, you have built your career, building marketplaces, and it seems that a lot of your career was building or be, was in somehow in grocery and food companies, right? So uh, what emerging trends do you see there? For example, like you built this global platform, so of course you were creating a commerce platform, but I mean, what other things were you doing, not only at RBI, but at the other experiences you had, and trends that you see in the grocery and food space?
Mm-hmm. No, cool. It's a great question. I think everything that is connected to how can we make the customer experience more fluid uh, uh, will be a part of this future, let's say. So today we still invest a lot of time like building web interfaces or apps, but the reality is that we need to be present wherever the guests are, right? So we have a lot of emerging channels and channels that the customers are present today, and we don't have a fluid experience with e-commerce yet. So uh, to list some, so social media is still something that have a lot of opportunity to improve the path to a perfect order, let's say. So it's possible to do some stuff, but we still have a long way to go to make a very fluid and frictionless experience using social media or using WhatsApp, because the customers are using these channels today. I believe there's a path also for personal assistants with all the evolution that we're seeing with AI and how to interact with a machine in a different way. So maybe in a couple of years from now, we are not going to be using 100 apps in our phones because things will be a lot easier. I think in Asia, we are already see a lot of consolidation in super apps, but not necessarily need to be super apps. Maybe these assistants can play a role there, and we can just have a more fluid and simple experience there. So, of course, I don't know exactly what the future will be, but I think we'll be connected to making this day-to-day experience more fluid using these channels that the customers are using, meaning social media, WhatsApp, and every assistant that we started to use more and more in our day, and things start just becoming simpler to handle. So I think it's important for every single platform and also for uh, retail, for QSR, for every type of business that needs to interact with the customer in the end today, in the end of the day, to be present and to start to test stuff, because yeah, I think this is what the customers want, right? So, and doing this not only with a simple experience, but also with personalization, because personalization is also a request that comes very often from the guests.
Hmm. Rafael, you created a company called OmniKey, and what was the reason? What led you to starting this? We have Mateus in our community also. He was watching the session, probably had to leave, but why did you why did you start OmniKey? And yeah, what's the pain?
Sure. Yeah. Well, we had to implement from scratch all the platforms with Extra, Ponto Frio, Casas Bahia, and this is really very, very complex. So having to deal with sellers on the day-to-day, the operation is not trivial, right? So we need to, from consolidating the products, managing the catalog information, or to manage the order flows, or customer service after the orders, or the financial piece. There's a lot of complexity in a marketplace operation. Other than that, of course, the need to create this ecosystem of partners and integrators and platforms that are connected in your APIs to be able to really have this ecosystem effect. But it's a very complex business and also a very complex technology behind the scenes that you need to invest a decent amount of money to make this happen. And it's not one-time investment, it's investment forever because business is changing and extending and new partners are coming, new ways to interact with sellers are coming. So we need to keep investing forever. And then I started to see many retails trying to do their own stuff and building their own stuff. And of course, the big players can do this because they will have budget, they will have capex to do this. But then when you go to a more middle range, you cannot. And also, the business model can be a model not only for B2C, it's a model that can be applicable also for B2B and other types of industry. And then on the other experience that I had using SaaS-based platform, I saw a lot of gaps in the environment, and we had like to create a bunch of custom stuff to be able to implement in that environment. So the opportunity was there, and if you see all the top big e-commerce in Brazil today, probably all of them are 100% marketplace operations, or the majority of their business is dependent on marketplace. So this is something that changed very fast, and the opportunity to create something to help this e-commerce to the e-commerce business to develop was very clear, and that's why we invested this time to make this happen, really to help to accelerate this move that was already happening in the market, but also to make this possible for other types of business. So like B2B, for instance, you have a lot of companies or industries or manufacturers that can benefit on that as well. So yeah, it was a gap, and I think this is still a big opportunity. And if anyone that's watching this video here have any e-commerce and want to learn more about this marketplace model and how to bring third-party sellers to sell in your platform, talk to Mateus, talk to me, and we can help to
Yeah,
think
we
together,
actually
basically.
we actually have, I believe, at least two prospects, which is Adam and also Thomas here. I think Adam operates in both like retail and B2B industries. And that question I would have, and I will share his question, I will invite them on stage as well, is more like, do you see that manufacturers now are becoming marketplaces as well? Do you see so, for example, I think I saw the other day in the auto industry. So a company, that it was a manufacturer and they had their own marketplace. So that's the kind of like case scenario where you would where OmniKey would be useful.
Yeah, and I think this is a very interesting topic because I can give the example of my city. I was born in a city that the main type of business that we have in the city is shoes. So we have a lot of factories and manufacturers there that are focusing on shoes. And what started to happen was, okay, if you are building like shows here in Franca, and then to go to the final customer, you have a lot of layers here. So you have someone selling to a distributor or for a big retailer, and then the big retailer buying. So if you go from the beginning to the end, sometimes you have like 200, 300% of margin that's lost in the chain, let's say. Not lost, of course, there is a lot of business happening, but it's efficiency, right? So you could be creating more gains in this chain. So what we saw that started to happen in Franca was a lot of industries were starting to create offers and selling directly into the marketplaces. And in some cases, creating brands or associations that could help them to manage the day-to-day, because it's a very different operation from their day-to-day. When you are producing shoes, you don't know how to sell or how to price or how to manage an operation that is ticket by ticket. You know how to handle like a container or a big set of goods that we're selling, but this unit operation is something new. So what we started to see was some other business being created, like to consolidate and to run this operation for the industry and trying to bring business to the front line. This is just one example, but I think we have things like this happening, as you mentioned, on the automotive industry as well. So you can have very other segments that can benefit on this journey optimization, let's say, and having their products being sold directly.
Brilliant. We have Thomas joining us on stage. It's also very important to say that only Evolve members have this priority pass to join us on stage. So Thomas, handing you the mic. Go ahead. Knock yourself out.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sounds good. So yeah, that was back to the RBI experience you had. I had some questions because it seems like a very big setup that you had, or I guess so, with a lot of restaurants, a lot of geography, and a lot of different complexity. And I was thinking you touched upon it a bit already, but just if you could dive a little bit more into the centralization versus decentralization thoughts, because that must be one of the big complexities regarding this one solution to rule it all versus kind of allowing different business units to do what works for them. So for example, you could say, okay, we have this shared backend, but you can do your own front end if you want to. That was one way to kind of cut things. You could probably cut things in a million other ways. So that was one question, and kind of related to that also, how much do you try to purchase software to manage these things, and how much do you build things to handle all this? Yeah, that was my questions.
Perfect, Thomas. Very good questions, by the way. Yeah, this centralized versus give autonomy is always a point for any corporate software that you want to try to generate these gains of efficiency. So this will be always a challenge. And I think what's important is try to understand what's important for the business that is running. So, and as you mentioned, we have different ways to split. You can do something as simple as, okay, we're going to keep like the front end very flexible. Sometimes you can have a very an operation that's more advanced, because if you see the countries, this is for RBI, but also for any type of business, you can have teams that are more mature. So teams that know how to handle code changes, how to do how to hire developers, how to do the more complex work, and teams that will focus on the business side. So maybe the solution is not the same across the board. So you can still keep all the core foundation, let's say, untouched, and create like or dedicated teams to a group that wants to scale and create some specific features dealing with feature toggle, for instance. You can build new stuff, and you can merge into a common code, but still have a feature that was built specific for a given country that's not available for anyone else. This kind of thing is totally possible using like a feature flag tool that can help you with this, the day-to-day on the interface. So I think it's more like what do you need? Because sometimes you don't need to change a bunch of stuff, right? The business is, well, if it's a restaurant business or if it's a retail business, you have a lot of stuff that you don't need to touch. You can focus on what will bring the differentials for the brand, what will bring to you the capabilities to bring more traffic. This is for sure super important, and most of the time is connected to content and less with technology per se. And then focus on this stuff. And whenever you need something more advanced in terms of technology, you can always build like a local team or a local structure that will handle this localization aspect, still preserving like a single pipeline or a single production system. And in some cases, when you need to deal with multi-region, also you need to deploy like a structure in different regions, right? So especially with, for instance, GDPR requirements in Europe. So how to be compliant with data residency requirements. So you need to have local stuff here. You cannot deploy a structure in the US and handle everything from the US. So it's more really, I'm trying to give some practical examples, but it's all about what you really need. Because if you try to bring flexibility and you don't need the flexibility, then you are spending probably more time and losing a bit of efficiency that you could have gained, created something centralized. I don't know if I answered your question, Thomas.
Yeah, you did. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Adam, go ahead, please. Thank you, Thomas.
Yeah, it's always fun to talk local versus global composability of technology. I agree. Good question, Thomas. I was wondering, in franchise, it's always so difficult, that struggle with franchisees and your tech, your organization, all that. So what are the two most common analog things or pieces of business process that you typically struggle to digitalize or automate? It's a favorite question of mine, because there's always something you really want to just, why can't we just do this? Why do they still use spreadsheets for the menus or whatever it is? So what are your two things on that?
Cool. Yeah.
And will it be the same things in 2 years, do you think?
Yeah. Selecting two maybe is the challenge, because have so many opportunities.
Just go with one,
right?
then.
Yeah.
Even more difficult.
Yeah. Look, maybe focusing on what's more. You have a lot of things that are related to the operation and how to have gains of efficiency in the operation, but think about something more simple to discuss, or customer facing. Loyalty programs and CRM, for instance. This is something that have very clear benefits. The customers want to have personalization. They want to have something that's simpler on the day-to-day, and every single brand in the world needs to learn more about the guests. So tracking the interactions, tracking what's happening to be able to drive personalization and to drive tailored communication is something that should be like a must. And sometimes it's not clear for everyone that this can bring benefits. But when you join, when you merge a good loyalty program with a good CRM execution, the sales just come. It's It's so clear. It's so clear. So it's really important to focus on this. And if I was going to start a business right now on this restaurant space, I would be thinking since the beginning about how to make sure that I have firm and loyalty since the beginning in the core of my strategy. I think every single big brand in the world is doing this. If you see any public report from the major brands, they are investing on this.
Yeah, I've heard something like that. It's typically starts with compliance and consent, and then moves on from there to what's the actual business case, and not just mitigating risk. So yeah, cool, good answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the question.
All right. So I'd say that was it. Very, very cool session, Rafa. So let me just see. Let me see. Vai dar pra fazer? Yeah. You can join in Hawan. Hawan, I think he's got a question. So just give me a second.
Cool.
I'll invite you on. Yeah, just invite him on stage. And that's the final question. You're on, Hawan. You just need to unmute your mic.
Are you guys hearing me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now I can hear.
Okay. So, great session, Rafael. Thank you very much for sharing your experience and your time. And I saw that you are founder of OmniKey, so congrats. It's a really, really great tool. We are Shopify experts, so we know the importance that OmniKey has in Brazil, especially in helping us to do split in franchises and in commerce and with shipping from different stores. So OmniKey is really great and really help us. And what I would like to ask you, it's about the tech question. We talked in maybe a couple of sessions ago. We talked about AI, and this week I saw some news about the AI bubble. I found that interesting because sometimes people just say, "Oh, I'm applying AI," but don't really put that in perspective and don't put really effort. Just say it because it's trending, because it's fancy. And as you are a tech person and professional, I just want to hear from your perspective. How do you see that? How do you see the future with AI, and not like a black box, but something that can really make a difference if it puts it correctly?
Mm-hmm. No, great. And thanks for the comments about OmniKey. Good to know that you're having a good experience. I'm happy with that, and will tell Matheus. Cool. Yeah, about AI. Look, AI bubble. We had like the internet bubble as well. I think if you get like the last 5 years, if you join a meeting with a vendor and the vendor don't talk about AI, it's probably a big miss because everyone's talking about AI. So it's but it's not just a buzzword, right? So it's really something transformational. The point is when we have the mainstream and a lot of people talking about something, most of the time, sometimes the context is not really accurate. So I think you can explore AI in every type of business. Is kind of a foundational thing, like was internet and like is internet today. So this can change really a lot of games in types of business today. I think I was very lucky to surf a bit of this internet wave, and I think AI will be like a big tsunami. Everyone needs to learn how to surf this. But yeah, the reality is you need to get a real case, apply in a real scenario, and try to extract something that's material. If you don't have a material benefit, then there is no point on keep just investing a lot of money to create stuff. So I think for the companies, everyone needs to have a space in the agenda to invest time to learn, but to create practical cases and cases that can be explored and generate real benefits. Otherwise, it will be just buzzwords and things that will not generate value. And when you start to have some material traction, then you know how to move next. So we need to be hands-on and practical to be able to extract the most, I think.
Thank you for sharing your ideas. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Brilliant. So we are on to 56 minutes plus networking that we had just before starting this session. Well, Rafa, if people want to know more about you, who's watching us on LinkedIn, what's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, just feel free to reach out on LinkedIn or WhatsApp. I think in our group we have also a lot of interaction. So please feel free to message directly anytime on WhatsApp or on LinkedIn. I'm online in both and happy to talk and explore any additional topic that you guys want to discuss. And thanks for the opportunity and for the time, Carlos.
Of course. I think yes. When we met in Barcelona, I said I thought this is a guy we need to bring to an expert session and have in our group. And I mean, you're a very cool guy, so of course, you know. Thank you, Rafael. We'll catch up offline. So thank you all for this session today. Next week we have Nick Johnston, the co-founder of Bacio di Laci, but we'll speak soon. Thanks everyone. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.